Most people I talk to are of any, demographic are scared and pessimistic. And I understand that.
There is no reason under the sun that any one person needs $1 billion. And in fact, this country was founded as the antidote to that.
I will say this to you. What I say to every single person is we're going to be okay if we all do our part. Hi, I'm Ryan Basham.
Hi, I'm Tara Devlin.
And you're entering a world gone good.
And you're entering a world gone good.
Well, hello, my name is Steve, and this is the place where we highlight everyday people making good happen each and every day. Welcome to World Gone Good. Hey, listen, I've almost finished the first draft of the second book in my series, The Dog Walking Detectives. Have you read my first book, Drown Town? You gotta get caught up so that when the second one comes out, you'll be in the know of what's happening even, in the 55-plus murderous community of Diamond Glen. Grab your copy of Drown Town on Amazon or Barnes & Noble websites. This self-published author truly appreciates your support, and for everyone who has already done so, I say, as always, thank you. Question: is it me? Or does the last 10 years feel like nonstop politics being crammed in our faces and jammed in our ears? Are you as exhausted by it as I am? Are you at the point where you are asking, why do I even bother? Why should we even bother? Or are you fired up and ready to go and keep the dream of democracy alive? Well, while you mull all over those questions I just gave you, take a moment and listen to this clip. It's from 100 plus episodes ago, and it's from CBS Sunday morning correspondent Faith Salie when we recorded together for our 1-year anniversary show.
I said to her, Ruth, do you want to vote? And she said, do I want to vote? Hell yeah, I want to vote. And I said, you know what? Come with me right now. She was like, well, I look at that line. I don't want to stay in that line. And I don't know about this. And I said, Ruth, you're 104 and a half years old. We're going right to the front of the line. So we get up, and some of the people, because Ruth always has like a coterie of friends around her. A few of them come with us. My husband, John, is there, and his dog, Corby, his dog who ended up dying a few months later. So when I think about Corby being part of this experience, it makes me so happy. So John and his dog Corby, and my 2 kids, and my daughter, who is then 6, is holding Ruth's hand, and Ruth is 104 and a half. So she's holding her hand of her friend who's 98 years older. And my son is leading the way. Ruth gets up and walks faster across Broadway in her walker than I've ever seen her walk. She's got this hat that my daughter Minerva had decorated. It was like festooned with flowers. And as we're walking over, I have this idea. I'm no cinematographer, but I'm no filmmaker, but I thought I have to chronicle this. So I'm trying to, get people to move aside, help her cross quietly. I'm trying to help her cross safely. I'm trying to hold my camera horizontally, as one does, and I'm interviewing Ruth. I said, how do you feel about voting today? And she said, this is the most important vote of my lifetime.
This is hands down, without exception. And I'm talking about the First World War, the Second World War, and every other election before or since. This is it.
Now, I played you that clip for a reason, because the next set of elections here in the United States are just a few months away. Okay, before you go into full panic mode, no, please, not even one episode, please, no more politics. No, don't make this episode about politics. Remember this. Listen. We are World Gone Good. Am I right? And just as we've done with this specific topic before, and many of the heavy-ish ones, we're going to hold hands and dive into the darkness to find the light, because as our friend Ruth would tell us, voting is one of the biggest privileges and quite possibly most important things we can do in a democracy, specifically here like we have in the United States. And when the political landscape feels as weird and twisted and manipulated and exhausting as it can and does right now, we need to find the spark, the hope, and the good. And today's guests have plenty of all of that and more to share. And let me tell you, neither of them is afraid to hold back the good political punches. Here come two loud and proud good voices. This is Tara Devlin and Ryan Basham. So I have a longtime friend here who I know from a previous life that I like to call it a previous life. We were texting the other day and I said, you need to come on my podcast. And she said, you have a podcast? And I said, well, so do you. So this shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
Let's start here. Roundabout generic question. What is good about Tara?
What is good about me? Oh my God, that's a good question. I think I'm a good person because I care about, and this is why I do my podcast. I do a podcast called Tara Buster. It's on Progressive Voices and everywhere else. But being a liberal, is that a good? That is the good. It's a reflection of some of my soul in a sense of having the inability to leave someone behind. I get some feedback from right wingers who stumble across my show or whatever, and they say things like, "Oh, you think that the Democrats are perfect and it's all the fault of the Republicans." I don't think Democrats are perfect or progressives or normal people is what I call them, but we're not trying to hurt anybody. I want them to have health care. I want them to have a decent life, retirement security, living wages. That's what we fight for. I'm not sitting there, I'm drinking their tears, and because I don't want that. And that's really what it means to be a patriot, in my opinion, and which is why it drives me insane, because they really hijacked the word patriot. But what is a patriot? A patriot is somebody that doesn't leave anyone behind. It doesn't leave you behind on the battlefield of ignorance or illness. And, there's nothing more, I think, progressive than what was our original motto, the national motto, E pluribus unum, out of many one.
Ryan Basham, you're technically returning for the second or third time because you were previously on here with our good friend Tanya talking about a road trip. Yeah.
That was so much fun.
That was fun. And now we're on a different kind of road trip. You're on a trip of your own. I want you to tell everybody in your own words, what are you working on right now, in particular, coming into this election cycle?
Well, I've been involved in politics for a long time in all kinds of different ways, but I saw a need in the political ecosystem. There are hundreds of grassroots LGBTQ political advocacy groups that are volunteer-led, volunteer-driven, and they don't get the same kinds of support and resources and cachet that like Human Rights Campaign does. So I'm building an organization to provide that, to network them together, make them easier to find by people who want to get involved but don't know how. And help them get resources that allow them to be more successful. And so I'm at the phase where I've done everything else. Now I've put it off. Now I have to do the hardest part, which is raising money from big dollar donors so that it can actually be an honest to God, fully fledged organization. So, it's a great time to be alive for me.
It sounds like it. What kind of response are you getting? Because I know that younger people feel disenfranchised. I mean, most of us feel disenfranchised at this point. But are you connecting with younger voices? Are they feeling, the importance of this coming election?
Most people I talk to are of any demographic are scared and pessimistic, and I understand that. I think the stakes being so high and the past few years showing us how real the danger can be, there's a lot to be worried about, but I think that it's harder to worry when you have a little more context, a little more nuanced awareness and understanding of what's happening in politics and what's likely to happen this year. And so I try to, help people feel a little bit better, I will say this to you. What I say to every single person is, we're going to be okay if we all do our part. And so that ties back into the organization I'm building, because it hopefully makes it easier for people to find ways to do their part. Most people, even politically savvy people, are kind of intimidated by trying to figure out how to get involved in politics in any way. And so I want to make that easier. But it feels scary and intimidating. There are roadblocks, but my job is to help people have greater agency in the direction of our country. The way that democracies are supposed to work is that we move forward because each of us is doing our bit to maintain and grow and evolve our democracy. And in this country, in recent decades, we've had a habit of many people complain but don't vote, complain but don't get involved. And so I am trying to encourage people to be more optimistic and also take personal ownership for each of our little bits. We are the most diverse, richest country in the history of the world. We're not all going to get what we want. Nobody gets everything they want. We call our democracy an experiment because it is. This is not something that's been done for thousands of years in feudal systems with kings and queens. We are actively experimenting with how do we, as a very diverse people, create a government that is by and for us. And it isn't perfect. It will continue to not be perfect. But in my lifetime, in your lifetime, in each of our lifetimes, it can get better. It can grow. It can improve. And I think if we have more realistic expectations about what a man-made thing governed, simultaneously by 330 million people will actually do in a year, I think it's a little easier to go, okay, you know what, we're doing okay compared to so many other countries that are, like Poland very recently just rescued themselves from the brink of losing their democracy. So, we have a lot of opportunity. It's not all bad.
Let me ask you this, because a lot of people are going to ask this question. Okay, so what do I do?
What do I do? Jeez. Well, of course, here's the thing I get overwhelmed too, because I think, but I always say on my show, I know how to fix this country. Part of it is, of course, the root of all evil is getting money out of politics, right? That is it. If money was taken out of politics and we had public campaign financing, then you would actually get altruistic people who want to serve their communities. Because normal, decent people, if they want to get into politics, they don't want to deal with this shit. They don't want to have to get on the phone all day and call and beg donors for money. And that's what they do all day in the House. Half the day or more is spent dialing for dollars, they call it. It's disgusting.
Again, sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
The person listening is asking right now, what can I do? How do I make changes happen? Even trying to find words that, I want to see happen if this is how the playing field presently is. What do I do?
We have to be involved and engaged. A lot of people say, I don't deal with politics. I don't, as if that's some kind of moral high ground. And that's, the old saying, if you're not at the dinner, or if you're not at the table, you're on the menu or whatnot. It's really true, right? So you have to be involved, and regardless, and at least, vote, pay attention, get involved, go to your community meetings, go to call your senator. Understand that everything is politics. So when people say, I don't follow politics, it's like there's an old Bertolt Brecht quote about the word. I'm trying to remember how he does. The worst illiterate is the political illiterate, who doesn't know, and I'm just paraphrasing, but who doesn't know that the price of the bean, of the sugar, of the salt, it all comes down to political decisions. And this idiot is so useless, or however he puts it, that they even puff up their chest and say, I don't pay attention to politics, but out of that ignorance is born the prostitute and the abandoned child. And the worst of all, the flunky to the national and transnational corporations. I mean, and that's just a paraphrase, but it's 100% true.
It's so interesting the things you're talking about too, because I think that hope plays into this. And when you see what happened in Alabama recently, where a red state and a blue Democrat won a seat by 25 points, and she did it by going door to door, connecting with people, talking to people, 25 points. Does that give you hope? And do we still have hope?
Absolutely. When someone wins, when a Democrat or a liberal wins in a red district or a red state, running on the things that Democrats have spent so many years shying away from, we even made up terms like pro-choice so that we would avoid having to use the word abortion, and that's the way we've been about it for decades. Meanwhile, the Republican Party really thought they had something going on because they would, hate on abortion, hate on people who provide abortions, hate on people who get abortions. And as long as Roe v. Wade was in place, they could do that. They could make that scene. They could motivate their small base of voters to get out and vote. And that was a relatively risk-free proposition. But now that we don't have the opportunity to be, indirect and casual and cautious about talking about abortion because it's actually a right that's actively being taken away, it turns out that more people than we thought are moderate or even liberal. More people than we thought don't support the GOP generally than we, come hell or high water than we thought. And it means that we have an opportunity in this rapidly changing world to reinvent how we earn people's votes. It's kind of an exciting time to me in politics because I think this can happen everywhere. I grew up in Tennessee, which is a very red state, but even then, I knew many of the people I knew who were moderate, liberal, progressive, even if they did call themselves Democrats or if they didn't, often didn't vote because they just assumed that the hardcore Republicans were going to have their way, and it was kind of a useless effort. And I think until a couple of weeks ago, people in Alabama who are moderate, liberal, progressive probably felt the same way. But now we're seeing that if people actually show up and vote, then things don't have to be the way they've been. And I think that's pretty exciting.
Can we talk about voting? Some people feel their vote doesn't matter, that it won't even matter. Is there truth to this?
In that John Lewis voting rights bill, that even the good Republicans like Liz, I'm saying good with quotes, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who, they wouldn't go to they wouldn't cross that line and go full fascist. Thankfully, that was, good on them, and their reward was getting drummed out of the party, but they had the opportunity to vote for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which included these expansions of the eligibility to vote, and also the early voting, and the registration to vote, and it also made gerrymandering illegal. The districts would be drawn by a nonpartisan, of course, computer, where they would fairly, and of course being overseen by nonpartisan, basically bureaucrats, draw districts that were fair. Where, as we know, like for example, Jim Jordan, his district is it is the definition of gerrymander. It looks like a salamander. You could be living next door to somebody and they're in a different district. They basically pick their voters instead of the voters picking them. And that's why we can't ever seem to get rid of some of these horrible people.
But some of it is true because the fact is there are people who still vote for them and therefore vote against
of course,
their best interests. It's not like they, people magically get in these positions.
No, you're right.
And you just brought up something that makes the world good, which is we can vote people in who will make fair maps and make it an even playing field to choose from.
Yes.
So let's focus on the good here. What is good about politics?
Well, we have to, it's a necessary evil, or so, in quotes. I don't know if it's good. Well, we have to, it's ideally the reason we are an interdependent species. Democracy is an aberration in Western civilization, as we know. So it's we're the longest running democracy that we've stood the test of time so far, which is not that long.
You also made a good point, which is that, and it's kind of like being in a relationship. There is no perfect person. There is no Jesus who's going to come save us. You can have faith in that, and you can have the belief that that's going to happen, but probably not going to happen, in my opinion.
Well, even if it does happen, it's not right now. We're not, even if it is definitely going to happen, we're not there yet. And we have to make life work until then, if it's going to happen.
Right. And what do you say to people? Because this is what I talk about is like, it's not like you're not going to get every single box checked. It's like anything in life. You're not going to get every box checked at a job, right? You're not going to get every box checked in a relationship. But we have to learn, I feel, at times to be okay with that and say, okay, I didn't get all my boxes checked, but the things that matter most to me fall more on this side, which is me also saying not every Republican is evil. Not every Republican is a bad person. But what do you feel about that in terms of, voting in your best interest when maybe not every box will get checked off your list?
Well, all of life is, push and pull, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's just how the universe works. That's how our lives work. And that is true, just like everything else in our politics, in our civic discourse. Cynical thinking is when it starts to give you feelings, especially if they're negative. And when you find yourself beginning to say things like, it's never going to be great, or it always sucks, or, some kind of general statement like that, that's when you, what I like to call, leave the land of useful thinking. And I think if we give ourselves an opportunity every now and again to step back from the way we're thinking and feeling about things and say, is any part of this possibly a result of ignorance on my part? Or am I really, thinking the worst, believing the worst, when that's not necessarily lining up with all the facts? I think that's something that we all need to do just in our personal lives anyway. But in politics, especially, if we take ourselves 1 step at a time, if we give ourselves and each other and the government that, our predecessors built for us, the benefit of the doubt and a little bit of grace, I think that we'll be better citizens and better stewards of our democracy. But I think we'll also be happier people, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, because something you hit on is being cynical is a reaction, and being cynical is also an emotion. And I've said this on the show and other topics we've covered. It's like, you can be mad as hell, but mad as hell, anger, that's just an emotion. What is your solution? And I think that's where it becomes a little difficult, because you found a solution. So I have to ask you, did you have a moment at some point of like, I did with this podcast. I wanted a certain podcast where people share good things. I couldn't find it. I decided I'm going to go and make that podcast. I'll do it. Did you have an I'll do it moment when it comes to where you will find yourself right now in the political spectrum? Did you have a moment of like, well, someone's got to do it? I guess it's me.
I got laid off from a job that I was not super upset when I was laid off, but I got laid off in early October. And I found myself in a position where I had time and, not as much money, but enough to survive on for a little while. And I thought, this is the moment. And it lined up perfectly, because it could not be a more important election cycle to be adding an important new tool to the national, LGBTQ political toolbox. So it almost felt like serendipity. And so I went from having lots of opinions about things and doing a little bit about it when I had time, to just, buckling down, not focusing on getting a job right away, not focusing on other things that on paper probably I should, because now is the moment. If I ever have any kind of legacy in the way that our society runs in my lifetime, it's probably going to be something like this. So, it felt like serendipity. It felt like the stars aligned, and that is something that I have ridden through my waves of fear and anxiousness and all that other stuff that are, normal feelings that come and go, but can be really paralyzing. And it's helped me push through a lot. Also, my psychiatrist has given me great stuff to help with that. I think now is a moment for me personally, and it lines right up with a moment for our community and our country. And I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
There has to be some kind of practical effect of unity, right? Being in it together, investing in each other, making sure. Isn't that what it means to be an American? Isn't that patriotism, to leave no one alone and behind in sickness? So I think as that would be a point of pride for us. I would think that look at how well we're doing. Look at this country, how great it is. We have each other's backs, and I know people want that, but we just have to, I think, be aware and get out of our own way and get involved.
Where do people find your show, and how do they follow you?
Well, you could come on over to YouTube. I'm on youtube.com/see4channel/Tarabuster. On iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, all the places. Also, the Progressive Voices app. The show's on there with other shows like Tom Hartman, Stephanie Miller.
I love Stephanie Miller.
I know. Me too.
Where can people join your team? Financially, volunteer, get more information?
Oh, great question. So my organization is called the Stonewall Network. Right now, as we speak, the landing page that collects email addresses is being built by the team of volunteers who are building our digital platform. For now, though, people can connect with me on social media at Ryan Basham, and I'll get folks plugged in. And honestly, the more the merrier. There is no such thing as not being good enough, skilled enough, whatever enough. If you want to get involved, I'm happy to have you on this team. And if this team is in the right place, I'm happy to suggest other places that might fit you better and give you guidance on how to get to them. But yeah, at ryanbasham.com on any of the, Instagram is best. I try to avoid X because I don't want to support Elon Musk more than I have to. But I'm on all the socials that way at Ryan Basham, and happy to engage with anybody who's interested in, pulling their weight, doing their part.
We close these shows with two questions. They can lean a little more to the, what you're doing in political world life. Who inspires you?
Oh, geez. So many. I guess FDR, I'd have to say. He's one of my, I'm fascinated by him. He's a rich person who had a heart. And in fact, his trust fund, in today's dollars, was $25 million. So saying that you can still be rich and not be disgustingly rich. But I think, I guess, I mean, if I thought about it more, I might think of somebody else. But I guess FDR comes to mind. He's somebody who fought to make this country better. And we're still living in the work that he did, thankfully.
I'm going to say a dear friend of mine, Reggie Greer, who was the LGBTQ coalition's director of the 2020 Biden campaign, which is how I got involved in the campaign. And he is one of the most humble, gentle, kind, and also smart and capable people I have ever met. And honestly, someone who's genuinely humble and kind in politics is really quite a rarity. But he continues to be a part of the movement. He works in government right now, doing really important stuff that supports the LGBTQ community here and abroad. And every time I think about who is the person that I look the most forward to seeing, and when I'm involved in the political world, when I'm in DC especially, it's Reggie Greer. I wish everybody could be friends with Reggie. He's just an incredible human being, and I hope one day to be as kind and gentle and generous as he is.
And the final question is not even a question, it is a statement. It is the way we finish all the shows. Just finish this statement. Tell me something good.
Something good. We will win. Okay? We're on the right side of history, decency, dignity, democracy, and humanity. And we will always win that way. So don't be afraid to get out there and get involved.
There is no such thing as being too far gone for us right now. And if we choose to be at least neutral, but ideally optimistic as much as we can, it will never happen 100% of the time. But if we choose into optimism and choose into ownership as much as we're able, we will get through this scary, potentially very dark place. There is a light at the end of the tunnel as long as you're willing to travel through the tunnel.
Thank you, Tara and Ryan, for sharing your good thoughts. Next time on World Gone Good.
A lot of us grew up with so much shame about our identities. And imagine what we could do if that shame got replaced, if it was gone. Like, what could we do with all of that space that's now there?
I just took the time to go through every single message, respond, give them my advice. Back then, we weren't able to really do that, right? Like, we weren't able to connect with people on this level. And so now that we are, it's like we are quite literally changing people's lives. And I mean, people change my own life, right? Like, they tell me their story and I listen and I learn from that as well. So at the end of the day, stories are the best thing we can give each other.
Julie Novak and Sonia Mia Blanco are two creatives sharing their artivism. I love that word. Through the Future Perfect Project, while lawmakers are working to pass measures that block the self-expression of queer youth in schools and communities, this organization is encouraging the next generation to speak their truth and sing their songs of tomorrow. We are talking writers, artists, producers, singers, songwriters, musicians from the ages of 13 to 22 having a place to share their voice. I can't wait for you to hear our oh-so-good conversation on our next all-new episode. Until then, be good.